Deflated?
Yeah. You could say I'm deflated.
Sad trombone.
Just it's I mean, the Jets are freaking good. They're the reason why they're first in the Western Conference. We weren't gonna get 6 by Hellebuck again. We had talked post game last game that we would probably have to steal this one like 2-1. We tried to fight as hard as we could, but man, Demko probably wants that Connor goal back. Just a scramble in front where Appleton buries one, and Perfetti absolutely walks Forbert. He should probably leave that jock strap in Winnipeg because it's in the front row anyways.
I think that one might be hanging from the rafters. He won't even be able to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, tough one. I mean, you got to figure that the playoffs are pretty much out of reach. And not that was really much in our control anyways. St. Louis is on an absolute tear, and for all of the teams ahead of us to fall off, I just don't see it happening. I have a pretty good feeling that what we're seeing today as the playoff picture in the Western Conference will be what the end result is. And everyone on the outside right now will continue to be on the outside when the season ends.
I think I'm not as over the season as you are yet, because the Canucks still could theoretically lose one more game and still get the amount of points they need to get to a playoff spot. And with the way that Minnesota is tanking, I still think it's more realistic that they catch the Wild, even if it isn't that realistic. The problem is that if the Canucks only lose one more game for the rest of the season, they're going to have to beat Vegas twice. And that is the two games that I think are going to be I was looking at the schedule, and I might as well pull it up right now so everyone can see what the doom numbers look like. The Vancouver Canucks schedule is a scary one, but not unreasonable that they could theoretically go on a run if they were healthy. Unfortunately, right now, they are not, in fact, healthy. But if we're looking at the Canucks schedule, they lost the game here against Winnipeg, obviously. Moving into April, Seattle's a winnable game. Ducks are a winnable game. Minnesota is a winnable game. St. Louis is a winnable game. Here are the problems. Vegas, Dallas, Colorado. So these are 4 games. Out of these 4 games, they can only lose one. And if you were to tell me the Canucks have 4 games in a row against Vegas twice, Dallas, and Colorado, and they're only going to lose one of those games, and that is if they do their duty and win the other 4 games against the teams that they should win, that's what's going to happen. But essentially, yeah, one more loss, and that's it. 2 more losses, and it's like they're in the ground. It's over at that point.
Well, and then if you pull up St. Louis's schedule, it makes it even more more upsetting. They'll have a hard time losing the rest of the season with their schedule. I'm trying not to be super upset and not to be negative, but I'm just being realistic, right? Yeah. Like it's going to be a very difficult stretch.
Yeah, St. Louis says Detroit, Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Utah. And then their 3 difficult games are the Jets, the Oilers, and the Colorado Avalanche. Depends on whether or not McDavid's back, because they haven't looked very good. The St. Louis Blues did just beat Colorado, so there's no reason they can't do that again. But again, it's one of those things when we're looking at St. Louis, we need them to lose a substantial amount of games for the Canucks to be able to chase them. That's why I'm thinking Minnesota might be the more likely target for us to look at as a team that we could possibly catch. So let's pull up their schedule, and then we can feel if that gives us any more hope, but we shall see. So Minnesota plays on tomorrow against New Jersey.
Not a good start.
Yeah, not a good start. And then in April, they've got the Rangers. Here's another. Dallas is going to be hard. San Jose will be easy. They play us, so there's a chance for us to put them down, but then, got the Ducks as well. So another schedule that doesn't
fill me with a lot of confidence.
So the schedule's not giving us confidence right now.
Yeah, that's where I'm just being realistic. A lot of costly overtime losses early in the season. Yeah, and just off ice turmoil that led to poor on ice performance, and it became too little, too late. And that's one of the things that, like, with the trade deadline is, unless you like know you're in, it's pretty tough to make a change drastic enough to make that much difference this late in the season. On the upside, seeing some really positive things out of our young guys. With the playoffs slipping further and further away, it does give you a reason to play them more and give them more ice time. Maybe Quinn Hughes comes out of the lineup for a game or two, especially once we're mathematically eliminated, which is not it's not far off given the way that our schedule is and the way that St. Louis is going. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more and more young guys in the lineup and also getting more and more ice time, which will be nice to see what we have going forward with next year and what moves management will have to make, whether that's through free agency or some sort of big trade. Man, every time I watch Nikolai Ehlers, I'd sure love to see that guy in a Canucks jersey. Playing the wing for Petey would really, I think, do some damage.
Speaking of young guys playing more, I was hoping that Rick Tocchet would have played Atu Ratu a little bit more because his faceoffs were on point again. Blowing this up here. Drew O'Connor came in relief, 100%. Suter was doing not great. He had 40%, so not the worst day. Teddy Bluger again, 35% of the faceoff dot. He only won 6 of 17. And you got Atu Ratu, 11 of 16. Why are you not using Atu Ratu as your number one center? I saw Bluger taking a faceoff in the offensive zone way too many times for my liking. And that again comes back to when it comes to the very fine details of the flow of the game, I feel like Rick Tocchet is completely out to lunch.
Well, and it comes back to the lack of trust that he has for young players. And it feels awfully similar to the Travis Green style of coaching when we wanted to see the young guys get some chances and more ice time towards the end of that coaching period when, we needed to see what we had from our young guys and see what we needed going forward. And it just wasn't happening. And it frustrates me because Tocchet is the king of hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
He goes in front of the media after Lekkerimäki has an absolutely incredible game, and he talks publicly about how great he is and he needs to find him more ice time. And since that interview has found him less ice time each and every game, which is no way to get a kid who is absolutely lighting up the AHL and for every reason should be in the top 6 driving the offense, especially with players like Höglander and Pettersson out. It really upsets me that people continue to defend Tocchet in these situations. His deployment of our offensive players has been a problem all season long. And despite the last 2 weeks with us being the second most goals scored, you see it when we need it most. It's one thing to score 6 goals against Columbus or against Chicago, and yeah, we had the one off against Winnipeg recently, but it's another thing to do it on a consistent basis where you're getting 3-4 goals per game, and maybe having 1 or 2 nights where it's one where you're struggling to find the net, but more often than not, it's 1 good night, 5 bad nights, and I'm frankly sick of watching it.
Yeah, you're right. Lekkerimäki with 11:32 of playing time tonight. Let's
I've
see.
been watching it consistently, and then also with Sasson coming up, why play the guy who has the flu the other night? Play the young guy who's playing his his butt off down in Abbotsford, doing absolutely everything he can down there to keep them in the playoff fight. You pull him out of a very important game for them, and you don't even use them. That's the stuff that's starting to get on my nerves. I really don't appreciate the way that Tocchet has handled our young guys, and it's very similar to the way he handled players like Clayton Keller and Lawson Krause in his time in Phoenix or Arizona with the Coyotes. Very similar, just no trust for the young players, and these kids have been coached to play a two-way hockey game their whole life. Like it's not like they're coming in with no ability to play hockey or no ability to be responsible for their game or try and play responsible in their own end. Are they going to make mistakes? Absolutely. But the worst possible thing you can do is try and change what type of player they are. And that rubbed me the wrong way when he talked about the reprogramming of PD2. And it's just, I just am starting to feel like Tocchet is not the right coach for the direction of this team. And there's no more saying that it's the same core that would be getting another coach. Like at this point, we're moving to the direction of all of these young players are going to be coming up and they're going to be filling out the majority of our lineup next year. So if that's the case and Tocchet wants to go coach in Philadelphia, I say let him go and bring up Malhotra, who has worked with all of these kids for this last year and has played with the majority of the people working in the Canucks organization, played with the Sedins, played with Ryan Johnson, has a great reputation with ownership and everything. Why not take a chance on him if you're kind of in that retool mode anyways?
Yeah. Jonathan Leckermacky, 1132, Carlson, 10, Alman, 9, 27. And then you got Bluger with 13, 14, right? Why is it the same thing as last game where Atu Ratu was good enough to go and take the face off in the overtime, but wasn't good enough to get more playing time? And then all of a sudden, with a minute left when you're trying to get a goal, you put Leckermacky out and it's already too late. What's the deal?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay. 3 stars. What do you think?
3 stars are going to be Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor was Canadian media. So Kyle Connor, Pew Suter, and Connor Hellebuck.
You think too highly of them. Appleton, one goal.
Yeah,
with the winning goal. The old winning goal fallacy gets the first star. Kyle
they
Connor.
just gave it to all the goal scorers.
Yeah, goal and assist, and Kyle Perfetti. Look at that. Good job, Winnipeg media.
So lazy.
Yeah, it is what it is, though. I'm not very much surprised by that.
No,
okay.
Not at all.
The Vancouver Canucks are depressing. So let's go have a look at the Abbotsford Canucks because we mentioned them briefly. We did talk about the fact that they're on a 9-game winning streak, but let's talk about those 2 games that we missed. Friday and Saturday they came in. What can you tell me about the first game on Friday?
A lot of feeling in this series because Barracuda are fighting for their position in the standings. They are 4 points behind us now after a really big series this weekend. So in game 1, the Abbey Canucks just came out flying in the first period. A really nice goal by Cooper Walker, assisted by Dino Cambites and Ty Glover. And then we had Phil DiGiuseppe getting loose with a beautiful pass from Ty Mueller. And then the second assist was going to Klimovich, but it was really Mueller and DiGiuseppe on that play with a little give and go.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chase Wouters, the captain, turning on the jets and showing some speed, getting around the defender and finding the back of the net for a 3-0 lead going into the second period. And then more Canucks in the second period. Jujhar Khaira, who has been an incredible ad since the trade, bringing him over. cleaning up a Nate Smith forecheck. He kind of played the puck off of the defender's stick, and it went right to Kara in the slot, and he buried it as quick as it was on his stick. It was off. A really nice goal. And then we went into the third period, and more Canucks on the power play. Phil Di Giuseppe getting his second of the game. So PDG doing some work down there, showing his veteran presence. Chase Wouters, the captain, with a nice assist on that one. And then, unfortunately, they were not able to secure the shutout for Tolopilo, who had faced 39 shots in this game and making 38 saves. So he really did. It wasn't like the Canucks ran away with this one. He had to make a lot of key saves. So pretty much a wide open offensive game. Not a lot of defense in this one. Abbotsford Canucks with 41 shots on net, and this didn't go to overtime. So this was two teams fighting hard for position in the playoffs, and Abbotsford taking game one. And it started to get a little bit of rough stuff towards the end of the game. Barracuda showing their frustrations, but no one really on the Canucks interested in entertaining their invitations on game one. Game two, however, we moved to get the next night. 11 seconds into the game, we had Jet Wu and Braden Hache dropping the gloves to get some of that energy out from the evening before. And let's not forget the game night before was at 7 p.m. and the next day's at 3 p.m. So they barely had time to sleep off all those emotions and everything, and needed to get out of the way. But backfiring for the Barracuda, who kind of started it in their own building. But again, all Abbotsford Canucks in the first period. 20 seconds after Jet Wu dropped the gloves with Hache, Sammy Blais, who we've been talking about an awful lot, has been filling in for all the call-ups in an offensive role, getting his 13th of the season, and really finding some of that speed that we had talked about. So someone to definitely keep an eye on in the offseason that the Canucks could maybe sign to a PTO or even just sign to a one-year league minimum contract for him to kind of get back into the league and push and see what he can do at the NHL level, because everything he's shown in Abbey is that he's ready to get back to that level. He is a Stanley Cup winner. I don't even think he's had his 30th birthday yet. Like, he's still a younger guy. Just had some injury issues and ended up kind of through the AHL circuit. The Canucks giving him a second chance here, and looks like it could be a really huge payoff down the stretch here and into the playoffs for the Abbey Canucks.
Yeah, he's a 96
And then,
baby.
Yeah, and then a shorthanded goal coming from the captain, Chase Wouters, stealing the puck at our blue line and off to the races again. The kid's got wheels. And burying it on shorthanded. Nate Smith finding the back of the net from Sammy Blais. That line that has been put together of Nate Smith, Sammy Blais, and Jujhar Khaira has really found some chemistry, and it really shows just the system that Malhotra has developed. Literally, he can take anyone who has certain skill sets and say, you're playing the top line style tonight, so go push the offense. And that's what guys are doing. And they're working together as a team, all four lines. Before the first period was over, that line getting another goal. Jujhar Khaira getting his 6th of the season from Nate Smith again. So a 4-0 lead going into the second period for the second, or adding one to the night before. Second period, the Barracuda would get one on the power play, but that would be as much as they would get. Nate Smith adding a power play goal in the third period from Arshdeep Bains, and Sammy Blais again with another assist. So he is up to 22 assists and 13 goals on the season, pushing for the team lead in points here towards the end of the year. So being a very important part of this 9-game win streak that the Canucks have managed to amass. And in that game, again, Ty Young stopping 18 of 19 shots faced. He has done an incredible job filling in while Shelovs has had to been up with the big club, filling in for Demko and then also now for Lankinen. Shelovs has been returned to the Abbotsford Canucks, and Ty Young has been returned to Kalamazoo. So it looks like all of our goaltenders are now healthy and where they should be. So that's good news for the Abbotsford Canucks as they go forward. Kind of unfortunate news for Ty Young, who's shown at the rookie level that he is already at 19 years old, more than capable of handling his load as a backup at the AHL level.
The Abbotsford Canucks are the San Jose Blues of the AHL. They're 9-1 in the last 10 games, absolutely on a tear, and they're only 1 point behind the Ontario Reign for second place in the Pacific Division now.
Yes, and so they will have 2 more games in the California area. They head on Tuesday, April 1st. They head to Bakersfield for one against the Condors. And then the following night at 7 o'clock, they'll be in San Diego against the Gulls. 2 teams that are the Gulls are kind of falling out of the playoff race, but the Bakersfield Condors are trying to separate themselves from the pack. They're holding on to that last playoff position in the Pacific. So that'll be an important game for them. So hopefully the Canucks can keep the win streak going on those last 2 road games, and then they return home for a couple games, couple rare games against an Eastern team. The Laval Rocket will be in town, so a team we really haven't seen at all this year. However, they are leading the division in the Eastern Conference that they are in, the North Division. They have 42 wins on the season, so that will be a tough opponent. Tough test for the Abbotsford Canucks, but a good test because they will then go up against the Calgary Wranglers for their last 2 home games of the season on Friday, April 11th and Saturday, April 12th. The Wranglers were above us in the standings for the majority of the season, have fallen off quite heavily in the last half, pretty much since the Four Nations break. I would say they've fallen off and now are in 6th place. So Canucks should be able to handle that series closing out at home. And realistically, if the Canucks start to get healthy, they should have all their stars back for those series as well. And then they go on the road to close out the year, 3 on the road, and then we're looking at the AHL playoffs.
Should be fun. Swerve and Irvin would like you to now do your thing where you would like to point out which members of the Abbotsford Canucks you think will be viable, maybe 4 or 5 of them, for who you think might make the team next year.
Well, I think you're already seeing a couple of them. Obviously, DPD, Victor Mancini. So there's 2 right off the top. Jonathan Lecker-Mackey should, for all intents and purposes, make the team. It looks like Atu Ratu should be ready to fill in for Pius Suter, given that the more he does as filling in as a first-line center, the more expensive he's going to be to re-sign, and I just don't see the Canucks going down that road when we see what we have in the AHL and guys that are ready to make that leap and kind of fill in that role of Suter, especially since now Philip Hedl is in the organization and considering, well, depending on what his health ends up as, he's supposed to be the 2C going forward. So Pius Suter is kind of getting played out of the lineup by these young guys and also by his market value. So I would expect Ratu. And then someone I would keep a close eye on next year is Ty Mueller as well, coming in as a depth center guy. He's one guy I'd really like to see playing up with the big club next year. A guy I would keep an eye on in spring training and camp, or spring training, in preseason.
Yeah.
Sorry, baseball just started and all.
Yeah.
But in preseason, Yeah, so that's those are probably my 5 to keep an eye on. And then my dark horse to kind of keep an eye on from the blue line is Cole McWard, who I think is a late bloomer, but has really had a breakout season as a two-way defender and has been really solid in the absence of DPD when he got called up. He had some big shoes to fill, and he's done an incredible job. So he'd probably be a 5B to keep an eye on for some depth on defense.
And after all that, we keep on forgetting that Akito Hirose is still a thing too, who looked pretty good in training camp last year.
He did, but yeah, I just don't know if he's going to be able to have a better skill set than some of these guys we've been able to acquire through trade. And also, who knew that DPD was going to be as good as he is? No one really expects that out of a third round draft pick. And then also, we got Wielander coming into the fold. So our right side is stacked all of a sudden. And realistically, our defense depth, we don't really have to do much of anything this summer, which is a relief. That's not something we've been able to say for a long time as Canucks fans. Like, our defense is good.
Yeah.
So that's nice because it allows us to go after a player like Ehlers, who will be highly touted as probably the best winger on the free agent market, and maybe move a player or two where we're kind of finding a log jam. Someone like a Kirill Kudryavtsev, I know I'd love to see him in a Canucks jersey, but I just don't know, given the depth that we have now, if we overcook him in the minors, his value may start to drop. And then I'd like to see him possibly moved while his value is high. And I could see him being a potential piece if the Canucks go looking after a big trade. I could see him maybe being a potential piece at the draft or something like that, given how many defensemen we now have in the organization.
Seattle coming up next Wednesday, Dustin. It's a 7:30 game in Vancouver, back home after a long road trip. What do you expect the Canucks to be looking like when they're back home to play probably one of the last biggest games of the year, especially if they can't win it?
It's hard to say. I saw a report that PD and Hoaglander have been skating a little bit on their own while the team has been away, but there's been no real update on their injuries or what came of them being reevaluated. Like, it's been pretty hush hush. So if they're in the lineup, who knows what we see from these guys? Because before they got injured, the team was starting to cook, and it was just, this year's been, as soon as you start to get excited, bad things happen. So, um, yeah, if they're back, it will probably be a really good game. If they're not back, another dogfight, and we'll have to see if they can get another 2 points there. Maybe St. Louis folds in a loss here or there, or Minnesota loses a couple. We'll just have to wait and see, man.
Just crossing my fingers again. You're gonna be there for the first intermission against Seattle?
I should be. Yep.
Cool.
Let me double check.
Wednesday, 7:30 start, late one.
Yeah, I'll be there.
April the 2nd.
I will be there. 7:30 start. I will be there.
Well, before I let you go, I still want to point out the fact that the Canucks are even battling for a playoff spot should feel like a good thing because of the amount of adversity that this team saw this year. But when you're in it, it's hard to feel positive about the whole situation, even though the Canucks, at the end of the day, many other teams would have just been down and out, gone already. So the fact that they are even fighting for a playoff spot, we have to take as some kind of a positive, don't we?
Yes, but it's really, really tough pill to swallow when on game one, this team was supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender. And to fall to this level has been a really tough grind of a season. But to get to the point where there's some positivity with our young guys in the lineup is a nice consolation prize. I will give it that. But it doesn't mean the sting is gone.
Right. Anything you want to say to chat before I let you go?
Thanks for hanging out through another Canucks loss. I always appreciate your guys' questions and love reading you guys with your crazy talks and chat. It keeps us smiling at least when we have nothing good in the game to smile about. And we will see you all Wednesday against Seattle.
Cool. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, buddy. We'll talk to you then.
You too.
Nothing is perfect.